Welcome to Chronically Driven, a podcast about being in the driver's seat when it comes to living an empowered, thriving life, mind, body, and soul. I'm Sandra Sova, and I believe that we are limitless human beings, and there is just so much that we haven't even tapped into yet. I had a really cool experience recently, two actually, where I was participating in a workshop for women who love to write or are looking to explore their writer's voice from a more heart-centered, soul-driven aspect within. That experience is what has prompted today's episode. If you're like me and you're someone who enjoys words, language, and writing, today's show just may speak to you. You are going to meet Pamela Jay, a natural voice guide and feminine leadership mentor who I've known for some time now, and I'm so delighted to have recently reconnected with. You're going to meet her and hear just some of her incredible personal journey of healing. And we'll tell you about the writer's workshop I attended, as well as an upcoming 12-week experience that Pamela has created for writers at any level that are looking to bring their authentic voice to life on the page, whether that be through journaling, poetry, song. It could be writing better emails and newsletters, or perhaps there's a story you're being called to share, maybe a book. If what you're about to hear calls to you, I've posted a link in the show notes that will take you right to the landing page where you can read more about this upcoming experience and book a free discovery call with Pamela Jay. So I won't keep you any further. I'm excited to have you meet my guest. Let's get started. This is Chronically Driven. Welcome back, everyone. As I said, I have got a fantastic show for you today, and I'm so excited to welcome my friend Pamela onto the program. Pamela, welcome to Chronically Driven.
Oh, hi, Sandra. So nice to be here with you.
It is so nice. I was going to look up and see when the last date was that I had you on the program, because I've been reminiscing, and you and I became acquainted a few years back when I was just starting out with my radio show, and you graciously came on as one of my guests. And now I think it's almost like it's like 3 years later, and here we are hanging out, having a cup of tea, couple of girlfriends hanging out, and we've got a lot of really cool stuff to share. So first of all, how have you been? How's life?
Well, good. I was just thinking that we are probably two very different people than we were 3 years ago. Is that fair to say?
Fair enough. Yes, absolutely.
I just remember being so drawn to your voice, your speaking voice. I'm a lot about the voice, as you know, and you're just a natural on the air. So I'm glad you're still doing podcasts, and I know I'm sending people your way that are good guests for you as well, and they're loving the experience. So
absolutely. And yeah, mentioning that the changes that have made, one of the things that I was so drawn initially to you was to hear about the healing journey that you have been on personally, that has sort of led and shaped and molded what it is that you now create for other women. And of course, listeners of my programs know that myself as well have been and continue to be on a healing journey. I don't think it's something that we're never done. We're always evolving, always growing. And what I have with such excitement that I want to share with our viewers and listeners today is a new project, a new program, a new thing that you are bringing out to bring out not just our voices and our writing, but to awaken the writer within and bringing that voice. And we're going to be talking about that. I've got some really cool story. I've got an experience to share with you all that happened to me just within a few days ago. It's got me so excited. But I wanted to take a moment to take a step back and have our listeners find out just a little bit about you, Pamela. And so a lot of the things that you do did stem from your own, like I said, your own healing and discovery journey. So can you share with our listeners a little bit of that?
I sure will. Thank you. Yes, of course, you can probably attest to this too, Sandra, that we come to realize oftentimes that the chronic illness that we are diagnosed with actually becomes one of our greatest gifts. And I would say that was certainly the case for me. I was 38 years old when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is an intestinal disorder. And I was scheduled to have surgery and have a portion of my intestines removed. And I was a farmer's, married to a farmer, and had two little boys, two young sons. I lived in Indiana. We had 1,200 acres. And I wandered off to a grain silo on our farm that was empty. I was afraid to tell my husband what was in store for me. And so I found this old stone silo, and the top was open to the sky. And I stepped inside of it. And Sandra, you probably had moments like this too. It's like a little voice said, sing. And I mustered up some strength to begin to sing a little bit through my tears. I was sobbing. And the sound of my voice coming off of that stone felt like warm butter just washing over me. And I had this enormous clarity that I was on a journey and that I was going to be well, and that I really was well, and something else was going to happen to me. I wasn't going to have surgery. The singing, oh, it filled my body. And I went, this feels like medicine. Well, I knew nothing about energy healing and sound healing and medicine. And actually, in those 30 years since that's happened, a lot has happened in that field as well. But the long story short is I returned to the silo as often as I could. It took a lot of my energy, was very weak, but I began singing there when I could. The resonant chamber was just lovely. And I would sing, and it felt like the cells in my body were all reawakening. Mm-hmm. And I began immersing myself into nature as well, and became very, very close to the natural world. And I would sneak back to the sandbar at the river. There was a river that ran through our farm, and I would bury myself in the sand. The weight of the sand felt wonderful, and I just felt cradled by the earth. All of this flow was opening up within me, and everything was working differently. I could feel it. It was like the energies had shifted in my body, and I was totally trusting this. My family didn't know that I had taken myself off the medications, because I had an intuition that the medicines themselves were what were giving me a lot of the migraines and other things I was suffering with. So it was a little daring, and I don't always recommend that for people, but it certainly worked for me. And in 12 weeks' time, had another opinion. I'd had two opinions prior, and they found it was gone. So I've been on this amazing journey over the last 30 years to say, wow, what happened in that? What was different about that? And now what? Right? Mm-hmm. Now what? I realized I'd been trying to do everything that everyone expected me to do, and I had been hiding some of my truest gifts. I hadn't sung in 20 years. I was put away a music career. So once I opened to all of that, a magical, magical journey began happening. And I'll tell you about that next.
Incredible. I mean, it's just like so many of the things that I'm hearing in that, to me, they just resonate so powerfully, because the combination of getting very quiet, doing something using your voice, you're connecting with nature, you're tapping into that energetic, maybe we even say spiritual, mind, body, soul connection. Mm-hmm. And that stillness allowed your body to listen and allowed it to receive a form of healing that you didn't even know you didn't even know existed, and yet you could feel it.
I could. I
Yeah.
could feel it. I could feel all of the pushing and the driving and the striving, and the fight was sort of dissipating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was opening to more of allowing. Actually, the river taught me that. If you've ever watched a river, it's like just the flow of the river. And I was opening to that. And I experienced those. I wouldn't have called it that when I was 38, but I now know we all have masculine and feminine energies within us.
Yeah.
And I was really caught in overly masculine energies that was pushing everything. And I was in my surrender, I learned to surrender to this other way of allowing. And that's when all the magic began to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I exchanged trying and fighting for allowing and trusting. And I always say I loved my Crohn's to death.
Wow.
And instead of trying to fight my illness,
Mm-hmm.
I just said, all right, my body must know what to do. And it does. It does know what to do. And so I began trusting that, and it was absolutely magical.
I think you touched on something that I recognize very much within, let's say, women specifically that have chronic illness, that whatever in their life has led up to having this, that we're often very driven in that culture of push, perform, work, do. And often,
Mm-hmm.
as women as well, we've got a lot of responsibilities on our shoulders. We take care of everyone else really, really well, but not
Right.
always ourselves.
That's
And that
right.
was one of the things you talking about, that masculine and feminine energy. When I first started finding out about some of the work and the programs that you put forth, that was really helpful for me because I really benefited from that in learning to soften and learning to
Mm-hmm.
accept and embrace that more feminine side. Because coming from my corporate career background and having to push so hard because I was trying to do so with chronic illness, I had this tough masculine, which sort of seemed like that was the way to be, all this
Mm-hmm.
doing, instead of being allowing the more vulnerable side.
Well, right.
And
That's right.
and
Yeah.
I think that that's common just because of our nature. And so allowing us to get back to the earth, get back to nature, get back to our beautiful feminine energy,
Mm-hmm.
I think is also just healing in and of itself.
It's really, really beautiful. And this is the way our society has been wired for quite some time, centuries and centuries and centuries. And we're finding that this way is not necessarily working, or very imbalanced
Mm-hmm.
to that masculine. And so we're talking about how we can bring that back in. It's really different paradigm, really, altogether. And we need the masculine energy. This is where I
Yes.
really want to bring this in and be very, very clear about that. Our masculine energy is our doing, and when our doing is aligned with our being, and they're dancing like a beautiful couple, right? Dancing, and there's no ego or distorted energy or anything that feels discordant in that. It is a beautiful dance, and we need both. And we all have within us both of those energies. The thing about having an illness like you and I both have experienced is the opportunities there, at least, for us to become very, very in tune
Mm-hmm.
with our body, and to recognize in any moment what is life-giving and sort of pulling, or yes, gently pulling, and what is energy draining, where you just feel like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that little book, I think I can, the little engine that could, I'm not sure
Yeah.
that was a great service to us when we were children,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it is just a very, very different way to live. And when you discover this, I don't know about you, but I was so relieved. It's like, wait a minute, you mean I don't have to save the world? It's
Yeah.
like, you move beyond that, and you realize that the work that we are called to do is to be joyful and happy and awake, aware, alive in whatever we are doing. And this is our greatest honor. It is it is our work. It is what's at hand. When we do that, it literally is, we become the change we wish to see, right? Gandhi was spot on, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, we become it first.
Moving along, I know you and I
Right.
talk a lot about that flow and that ease and that way of being, that it's very, once you start to experience and feel and live that way, you just want to find ways to create more of it. Yes,
so
absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm happy for you. That's
the
awesome.
way it works.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to share with people some of the just goosebumps, heart opening experiences that I had this past week, and talk about so let's talk about writing. Let's talk about expressing ourselves and journaling. First of all, just as a practice. I know that's something I know you've talked about, and I've seen you have stacks and stacks and stacks. You've been writing for most of your life.
Actually, it really started again after the silo experience.
Right. Okay.
And I found myself waking up around 3:00 in the morning and sitting in the front parlor of my farmhouse in a green flowered chair. It was an old wing chair, and it just kind of, I fit in it really nicely. And I'd turn on a little tiny little lamp or a candle, and I would sit there. I just felt called to be there. It was unusual. My family was asleep, but just to get up and do nothing. And I began, the same little voice that began that said sing in the silo. It's like, what was that? How was that? How did that happen? And I began I got a pen out because it started to like, something's trying to speak with me. What is this? Right. And I began putting pen to paper, and it started, actually, it sounds so unusual, but I think spirit works with us in whatever ways that we can receive things. And I began it started writing in printing, like a child, like writing for the first time in a printed word, which is with that slows you down, right? Instead of cursive. And it was backwards, which was sort of funny because I'm rather dyslexic. And so it was like, oh, okay, whatever. And I just stayed with it. And I would just write really, really slowly. Well, I think my mind was slowing down. It's racing. And I was just sitting in this place. I had just come out of a sleep. So I was in a little bit more of a relaxed brain state anyway. And I began to just write what I felt like I was hearing. And initially it sort of feels like it's coming from outside you. I would say now it's in our whole energy field, and we're in communion with that divine feminine voice that's whispering to us. And you can call that whatever you want to call that. But I didn't know what to make of it. And I says, well, all right, then I need to name you something, because this is just too weird. And I don't know how I'm going to ever explain any of this. And then I heard the name Sarah. So I just began calling it Sarah. And it was like, Sarah with an H? Yes, Sarah with an H. It's like, okay, whatever. And so here I am. I'm a farm woman, right, who has just healed in this unusual way from an illness, and I still have chores to do, blue jeans to mend, school lunches to pack, fields to help plow, and I'm writing at 3 a.m., which is not always the most convenient time, but it certainly was luscious and wonderful. And then I would rush down to the root cellar and hide my journals in between the jars of canned green beans, and couldn't wait to visit it again. I went, something's happening here that's wonderful. And I began to write and open to a flow, writing more in a normal way. And then all of this beautiful guidance began to come through, instructing me to open a learning center for children on another farm across the river, where I was to help people slow down, reconnect with nature and their gifts that they're here to give the world. And I'd never done anything like that. But this process, and it's different for everyone, but I started to years later realize that we all have access to this. This is just one way that we can receive divine guidance. I certainly open to that and receive from nature in a similar way. But the page and the pen and making the invisible visible is so amazing. And that is how I began this learning center, a dilapidated farmhouse, an old barn. And we made hiking trails. I developed programs for children. I served thousands and thousands of people for over 12 years and had a staff. It was absolutely magical. I began writing music. I'd never written music. I sang music, but I'd never written it. Songs began to come through. When we open to this way of journaling, like you experienced in the workshop the other day, some of the things that come through could be used in the future in some way. They may just come through to help you through that day, but they also could become things. It became my business plan for Wheatfields, my learning center. These songs that came through eventually were recorded. I'd never sung in a studio before, and it took my house burning down before I said, okay, I'll record them. And I did. And that was a magical journey in and of itself. But those songs that came through the journaling eventually ended up on a CD that helped raise money for our children's programs. You can't make it up. It is just an amazing way. Poetry, things I am now doing as a voice, natural voice guide for women entrepreneurs that live all over the world. The programs I'm developing, like the one you were in the other day, those are coming through my journaling as to how I'm to use them, how I'm to guide them, how I would format that, how many weeks it should be. This is internal guidance that we all have access to, this inner voice. And when you write, it's a flow, right? You're in that flow. Did you experience that the other day?
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. So you had invited for women to attend a workshop to go through a process of, it was so beautiful. Yourself and a friend of yours, Anne Bromley, led the group,
Yes.
and we did like guided meditation to bring in. And I think that is like just so powerful to really focus in and get into that space. And then after we went through that beautiful process, we were then given 11 minutes to journal and to write. And I've journaled before, and so I'm familiar with writing. But what I was really looking for was a way to become a little bit more free and more flowing with the writing. And so I did. There were 2 workshops. The first one was so amazing. It's like, I want some more of this. And so I attended both of them. The first time I went through and I'm writing, and I was amazed at the volume of stuff that came through. And what I noticed was, as that was going on, I was grinning from ear to ear, and I actually had a couple of little giggles come out. And it was because what was being written on the page, it wasn't my usual style of writing or speaking.
Right.
But Pamela, I recognized it. I recognized it as what was coming from a different level, from my heart, from source. It just came, and it just flowed so fluidly. And I just thought that was amazing. And so I was just, feeling so pumped up. And then, as the universe sometimes does, there was an opportunity to capture another session, was presented to us. And I did the same writing experience again. And this time it was even more enriching, because I kind of knew what was going to happen. And I really embraced that, getting grounded, breathing in the cleansing light, and just really tuning in, and then seeing what would come out on the page.
And that's so, so beautiful. I'm so excited. I remember seeing that smile. And
Yeah.
it's like you're communing with the divine. You're feeling like you're so in tune with it. And so what we're talking about is really, it's a lifestyle. It's a spiritual practice. Whether you ever do anything with any of it matters not. And you could take it when you're done, and some people do, right? Put it up, fold it up, and toss it in the fire, or let it float downstream. It's non-attachment to the what comes through, but it is opening to that flow. And I love what you said. You used the R word, remembering. It was as if you remembered that voice.
Very much so. And so that was, I was really delighted with that. But then what happened on the second one was even more profound. And so again, I go in with I didn't have any expectations. I'm like, what's going to come through me? What's going to flow out? And as many of us have, we have some trauma, some things that we've dealt with throughout our lifetimes that make us the wonderful individuals that we are. When I was doing my writing, I happened upon some stuff that still sometimes weighs on me. And I started writing about that. And I started writing at it from a point of an observer. Mm-hmm. And once I got, and I was writing that out, and I just thought, wow, that's, it really struck me that I was so interested and curious of why that came out. Certainly didn't intend to. And so some real things that really touched me came out of my pen. But then the very next moment after that, something shifted. And the most beautiful, loving, healing, nurturing recovery, telling myself that I am so divinely protected, and that I have the power within. And again, it was just flowing out of me.
That's so beautiful.
What I realized after that is it was, and this is why the gift, and this is where we're going to talk about your program that I've signed up for. And I'm so excited because my writing style, I'm going to say it. I think I'm a good writer. I think I'm good at expressing words. But where I write from my brain. I write using my intellect.
That's right.
And then I go through after sometimes, because I produce a podcast and a radio show. And a lot of those are solo casts where it's just me speaking on a subject matter. So I'll write what I want to deliver and what I want to share. And then I go through afterwards and I edit it to make it sound a little bit more maybe approachable or softer. But now I've just had an aha moment that I can use these techniques of centering in, finding what is it truly authentically. What am I meant to say? What does the universe want me to say and share? And approach that from that space initially. And then I can go back and edit to tidy it up if it sounds a little.
That's right. That's right. That's the reversal of the process. You just described it. So you would be allowing the observing feminine, right? To just see, pull it through. She whispers to you as the physical person, and the divine masculine is, my chair was holding me. It's holding you, you're safe, and you write it out. And then the masculine energies also are the ones that come in and edit and all of those sorts of things and tidy it all up. But you're delivering what wishes to come through you that's more natural. And we hear so much about authenticity. That word is almost overused these days, but it's because we're hungry for what I call our inner nature. And our inner nature, this is how we work naturally. Yeah. Right. And so I love that you have had this huge aha, because I think it's going to shift everything. I have an idea for you that might be interesting. I tried it early on, and I do like the pen on the page. It's powerful. There's something about that, and moving away from the computer. Some people can do it in that way as well, and you can. But you're also very auditory. You have an amazing voice. You have all this incredible diction. It would be interesting to experiment with that, because oftentimes when I am writing in this way, my eyes want to shut. And I wonder what it might be like for you to shut your eyes and to center yourself, sit back on your sits bones and call it in the same way, maybe write for a few minutes and then close your eyes, and then you could turn on a recorder and see what might want to come through you in the spoken word. That would be interesting. I don't know, just like it's something I've played with from time to time, and it's just a whole nother experience of that. But pen to paper is certainly very, very powerful. And I so encourage you, because this is a huge aha because for you, right? And for anybody that tends, and we tend to use that thinking mind. And then that is where the one comes in. That's the pesky inner critic that says, oh, that's not good enough, not right, not right. Think of the energy that we save when we can find this clarity.
Yes.
And allow it to come through.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just,
it feels
just
different.
write it. It does.
It does. It feels different. It doesn't feel forced. I like what you're touching on by using my voice to record an audio. I do that. I do that sometimes. So normally what I'm so excited about this is I now have, I'm learning how to tap into that basically when I want it. Previously, I refer to them maybe as like downloads. I would get these flashes of inspiration, usually when I'm cooking or something like that, and I would audio record them. And so those would just happen randomly. But what I'm excited now, because I am a writer, I create content, I now want to be able to tap into that and utilize that. And I think the more that I tap into it, I think it'll be good. Using the, I think I shared this story with you that I sing for a very private audience of one, usually myself, sometimes my husband, sometimes my cat, sometimes just the birds on the beach. But I have this way of singing, and it's always in rhyme. I have, if there's ever like a stand-up improv where you have to make stories and they have to rhyme or make rhyming songs off the top of your head, pick me to be on your team,
you're
because
the one,
it's a
right?
superpower. I can just do that. And when my husband always remarks when he hears me singing, he says, "Oh, Sandra, you must be happy, because when you're happy, you're singing." And I do that. I express in a very lighthearted way. I mean, because it does happen when I'm happy, but again, it's a different, I'm noticing now that's a different type of expression, because I make these lyrical rhyming songs.
Can you do one now?
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of pressure. What would I say on this fine day?
That's okay. That's okay. But that's really fun. And
the playfulness too is
absolutely
is creativity.
Yes.
You
Absolutely.
called this writing thing. What did you call it? You didn't call it a workshop, did you, Pamela?
It's a play shop.
It's a play shop.
It's all about play. My learning center, Wheatfields, I did for 12 years. I realized that a part of my healing was that I needed to play and open my creativity, right?
Yeah.
That was a part of it. So I invited everyone else to come along and created a learning center for thousands of people. But that was my place to play. It was absolutely amazing. We were doing things with repurposing and reuse before it was trendy. Yeah. And it was all about using what you had at hand. I love that for you. And you mentioned something so important a few minutes ago when you were talking about how it feels different.
Yeah.
When you do that, it's because you invite it, and you can invite it at any time of the day. And it can be in little snippets, like carry a notebook with me in my purse, because, it's an invitation to connect. You can do it anywhere at any time. And you don't have to, think about, I have to do it a certain time of day. Yeah. It can be helpful in the beginning just to sort of set that rhythm and move into that. But it's an invitation.
And it's something like anything else. It becomes a practice. It becomes a way of being. It becomes something that we a skill, a soft skill that we can call on. People are, I mean, we're sort of talking about doing writing, journaling, or being playful and stuff, but there's a whole other aspect of writing for people that really have something that they want to put out into the world. Maybe there's a book. How many of us have such amazing, powerful stories that we feel we'd like to put forth. Maybe
Right.
there is, maybe we're drawn to experience poetry. Maybe it can be writing and communication. Communication
Hmm.
is what is so important. And so what you're creating now is a program to basically hone in and help do exactly what we have just been talking about, which is to awaken the writer that's within us, awaken the
Right.
writer within. And by doing that, I mean, I think it's something that is very, very appealing. And so you've developed a program. And I would love for us to let people know what you have created.
That's great. Well, everything's virtual right now.
Mhm.
I prefer to teach in the beauty of nature, and I've done that many, many times. But I realize we can call that in. And so we do it virtually. Women from all over the world are signing up to be with us. And just like the other day in the play shop, we will be seated at a virtual campfire because the circle has a lot of beautiful power in it.
Mhm.
And this will be a 12-week deep immersion experience where we'll meet each Monday at 12 Eastern Time. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. That means people out on the West Coast and where you are will be needing to pop in at 9.
Yep.
And we have some in the United Kingdom and Norway and Austria that'll be joining us. So it's near their evening. But we'll be coming together, and I'm not going to tell everything that's going to happen because the element of surprise, and we never know, right? But we're going to be connecting into this collectively,
Mhm.
into this energy, and all working to do writing to open to this flow. We'll be playing. People will be able to design maybe a little special place where they might like to write that might evoke this feeling initially if they haven't already done that. Or they may, who knows, sky's the limit on that. And it is drawing visionary leaders and coaches, speakers, of course, authors. Some have already written a book, but maybe have another one in them. Some that just are interested in the soul voice connection and journaling as a practice. And then I've got, it's so interesting, artists are showing up. So we have, let's see, somebody that can drum, another who does gestural storytelling, which is awesome. And it's just, yeah, going to be real interesting. A singer songwriter. And so the arts, the expression, the fun, I call it fun flow. We're going to open up fun flow and see what happens in this collectively. I have worked with women one-on-one from all over the world for the last few years, and they've had amazing results opening to their speaking voices. And I've helped them overcome stage fright and end up on the did I say that right? Stage fright, and end up on a TED Talk stage, and or open up to writing their signature talks, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But I am so excited about the writing piece, and a large part of that's I'm working on my own first book. And it is such a cathartic experience writing a book, and I'm opening to the writing in a whole nother way. And as I'm writing about the story you heard earlier, it's like everything is coming back around to remind me of how that connection, when I found that and began writing in that way, following my natural healing, everything I've done since then in the past 30 years that has worked with ease, flow, abundance has worked beautifully.
Mhm.
When I am out of that and I get caught back in hustle, push, drive, strive, it bogs everything down and things stop. The flow stops. So this is what it means. That's what I call leading from the feminine,
Mhm.
right? Leading from the feminine energy. And so it begins with this practice, and it can awaken and open your voice in new ways, help you find a greater peace, because really this is all about how to tap into being present in the
Mhm.
moment at hand.
And I think a lot of it is allowing that to come from us, allowing us to look in and creating these things in you guys. When Pamela puts together, she talked about creating a a campfire circle, and you're so effective at doing that. And when you were talking about that there's going to be women joining us from all over the world,
Mhm.
I got the truth bumps on that, because the collective energy of bringing in those women from different time zones, different areas, will have different genres of writing, but all coming around that circle, and with that exchanging and learning from one another and sharing from one another. I want more of this. I want that feeling when I'm creating. I want it to be just feeling that flow and that ease. And oh
Mhm.
my goodness, is that whatever I felt in that play shop that we
Yeah,
did?
that
And so I'm really excited.
I'm so glad you're going to be joining us. And there is still room in the program for others to come and to be with us and have this experience. And all you need to do is bring a journal and a pen when you arrive. And I'm enrolling for the next few days yet. It starts October the 4th. So that is next Monday.
It
And
starts on Monday,
yeah.
October the 4th. I'm going to, yeah, you guys, if this is resonating with you, if you're thinking this sounds either absolutely, you know that this is what, this is going to be something that's going to enrich you, or if you're really just curious about it, take the next step and connect with Pamela, because what she does is she offers a complimentary sort of a discovery call to get you all the information that you need, and then you could get signed up for this amazing program. So I will put the contacts in the show notes, but it's really simple to get in touch with you. It is PamelaJ.com.
Mhm. And that's Jay, yes, PamelaJay.com. And absolutely, just really, it's a beautiful full circle for me. I used to teach things similar to this on my farm, and now I'm working again with women who are called to lead and know that they are in some way open to expressing themselves in this way. And they may not always be the ones who are the out front leaders, but
Mm,
they are leading in this way we've just been talking about in whatever they are creating, podcasts, books, their life, right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely a very, very life-changing experience. And I'm just delighted I have found ways now that I can share what I learned so many years ago. And I feel like it is aligning with this new paradigm and this new way that we are being called to lead. And one of the other things I'm very excited about is that I'm going to be having courses in the future that are working with younger women who are coming in as the next generation of leaders.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so very
Yeah.
excited about that. That
There are
resonates.
there are so many voices and stories out there in the world, and we want to hear them. We learn
Mhm.
so much, not only just by telling our stories, but hearing each other's stories and experiencing that. I just love all of this, and I'm so so thankful that we've connected again and have the opportunity to not only chat and do this podcast, but we're going to be spending 12 weeks together in the
Yes.
program, and that's I mean, it's really delightful. Oh
Ah,
yes,
I
and
brought clarity.
clarity, thank you so much for the reminder. That's when I was talking
Yeah,
about creating these circles. Pamela has let's introduce Clarity. She's always with
Clarity's
you.
she is. Clarity's my guitar, and she has been with me, and she actually was spared from the house fire I mentioned earlier, along with the children's songs. And I use her in my sessions I do with women who come to meet with me. I help them hear their heart song, remember it, and tap into that. So she is always present in that. She'll be at the campfire. And this program, this play shop, this 12 weeks is a beautiful, beautiful opportunity. If you are feeling a nudge, and want to learn more, I want to just talk with you and see if it's a good fit for you or not. There's no pressure. You either resonate like you're in a silo, or it's just not time yet, and that's okay. But all of us can benefit from taking time to slow down and to connect with our divine inner nature. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you so much. This has been a delight. That absolutely was a delight. And that wraps up today's show. I hope you have enjoyed it and found it entertaining, informational, or educational in some way. Reminder that the program that Pamela is offering starts on Monday. So I would encourage you, if you're interested, to check out the link in the show notes. Thanks so much for being here. I really enjoy putting these shows together for you. If you would like to listen to a replay of this or any previous episodes, just simply search for Chronically Driven wherever you watch or listen to your programming. Thanks so much. I will see you next time. And until then, I am wishing you wellness.